Welcome, y'all. Today we are going to be destigmatizing mental health, and we're going to be dancing. But let's start out by checking out this set and listening to the shout-outs for this mixtape from DJ Fleg.
What's up? This is B-Boy Donkey representing Lions of Zion crew. Just giving a shout-out to DJ Fleg, fellow Lion on the wheels. But yo, Fleg, where's this damn mixtape at?
Alright, so mental health is a very weird topic to discuss because it's taboo to discuss. Like a lot of other really important things in our society, these are things that we are not comfortable discussing. And usually because we have been convinced that this is not something we should talk about. So specifically with mental illness, I have depression and bipolar disorder. And the most harmful thing I have done to my mental health is mask it, to not show how I'm feeling to the people around me. There's a lot of different reasons for this. I think the biggest one is that I just don't want to be burdening people around me who are already dealing with their own life shit. Or at least that's the lie I tell myself. I think the big reason is that we're seen as vulnerable when we show that we have mental health issues. And we're taught not to be vulnerable. I think there's a lot of ways that masculinity plays into this, especially when you look at how the public perceives men with mental health issues versus women with mental health issues, because there's some weird, like almost romanticization of women with mental health issues, like the wailing widow stereotype, shit like that, where it's almost romanticized, whereas for men, mental health issues are generally invisible. These are generally things that we're just supposed to keep to ourselves. We're not supposed to talk about our feelings. We're not supposed to show vulnerability. And so the response to all of those issues is to mask how we're feeling and to pretend everything's good when it's not. And ultimately, this harms us more than anyone else. Because if we're not honest with the people around us, we're not being honest with ourselves. We're not opening ourselves up to what we feel and what we're going through. And if we block that off, then we just suppress it, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And that's not sustainable. So what can we do to destigmatize it? What can we do to make this more acceptable to talk about? So let's start by just owning it. Just be comfortable saying, hey, I have depression. Or in my case, I have bipolar disorder. It's funny, I made videos about depression and just found out I have bipolar instead, so that's like a whole fucking thing. But ultimately, it's the fact that if we don't say anything, then this ends up harming ourselves. I mean, I think the ultimate harm that this can cause is suicide. And I guess we'll have to get into some statistics a little bit, but more women attempt suicide than men, but more men succeed in suicide than women. Now, that's not to say women don't have mental health issues too, but let's just take a look at this. And the way I view this is people with mental health issues are afraid to actually say anything about it, but attempting to take your own life is a pretty big call for help, and hopefully people around them will recognize that. But we shouldn't ever let it get to that point. We shouldn't ever let it get to a point where we're not able to just be ourselves and own who we are and what we are as human beings who struggle. That's just effectively what it is. All of us who have mental health issues united across all sorts of different social identities, we all struggle with the same shit, the same mental traps, these pitfalls that we fall into so easily. Because it's just the nature of mental health, it's just the nature of this stuff. So one of the most important lessons I ever learned, the way that I really learned how to frame this, was when I used to be a teacher, and there's a student who, for the sake of this story, is going to remain gender neutral. They're going to go by the name of Z. Now, I taught Z when they were in 7th grade, and Z and I, we had a lot of conversations about mental health and depression, and we were both very open about it when we talked about this stuff. I remember when I taught a homeroom class, I also would when we had days where we're talking about mental health, I would just say, hey, yeah, I have depression. This is kind of what it looks like. This is how it works. And a lot of students would say, oh, I have a sibling with depression, or some students were even like, Mr., I think I have depression. To which my response is, let's go set you up with our counselor and see what we can do. But anyway, so Z and I had always talked about this stuff, and this was a couple years later. This is when I ran the video game club with my colleague, and Z and some of their friends showed up to, play a bunch of Super Smash Bros. At the end of the day, a couple days a week. And one time Z came in and asked, hey Z, how's it going? They say, well, mister, I'm really fucking depressed. How are you? And I'm like, I'm good. Wait, what? And then I had to take a moment to think about the fact that I'm a mandated reporter. I need to be sure that the student isn't going to hurt themselves. And they could probably tell I was struggling with that. I mean, this kid is insanely empathetic and perceptive. So maybe I don't know if they actually read my mind, but it sure felt like it, because then they were like, mister, don't worry, I'd never hurt myself. It's just, well, you asked how I'm feeling today, and I'm feeling really fucking depressed. That ain't gonna stop me from having a good time. That ain't gonna stop me from, hanging out with my friends here. But yeah, I'm really fucking depressed. How are you, mister? And I had to take a moment. And then after that moment, I responded, well, Z, I'm also really fucking depressed. Thanks for asking. And that experience completely changed the way I think about this stuff. It completely changed the way that I approach this. There's been a lot of stuff I've been reading about it. I want to recommend the book Radical Dharma, because it's an awesome book. I'm going to be doing a full discussion of it on my channel once I've had some more time to digest stuff. But this also discusses how if we want to be whole, if we want to be healed, we need to lean into our pain. We need to recognize it and embrace that, because otherwise we can never heal. One other thing that I'd like to bring up is the fact that it is far easier for a privileged person such as myself to obtain adequate mental health care. There's a lot of statistics out there. I'm not going to bother presenting all of them right now, but it is very clear that less privileged folks have a much harder time finding good mental health care. And considering how insanely hard it's been for me to find adequate mental health care surrounding my bipolar disorder and all this other shit, it's really insane that other people face way more obstacles with this stuff. So if we're going to talk about mental health and we're going to advocate for mental health, we need to also be discussing various social issues such as racial justice and feminism and stuff like that, and look how these factors play into it as well, because it's not just mental health awareness. There's a lot of other stuff that goes into this that exacerbates these issues. Toxic masculinity does a great job of this shit. And just in general, the way our society is set up really prevents a lot of folks from healing, prevents a lot of us from owning it and being open about how we feel. So this is important. This is something that we just gotta start talking about and own, because otherwise we can never really get anywhere with it. So there's a bit more dancing coming up, but I really appreciate y'all listening, checking this out. If you made it this far, please consider subscribing. That's going to really, really help me out. My channel is very tiny right now, but I would love to be able to spread these messages to a larger audience. So subscribing to my channel and liking the video go a long way for that. But also, I really want to have some conversations with y'all, so let me know what you think in the comments below. Because I love it when someone's comments, I can respond and really think about everything that's being digested by everyone, and just kind of build that sense of community around it. So, anyways, I will shut up, y'all. We have about 30 seconds of dancing left. Thank you for checking this out, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.
When you bought me your love, the day was brand new. Say that you will be here, my love is still true. Sweetie, I will love you though we are through. Till you bought me your love, my life was so blue.
You are now tuned to DJ Skill Kid.